Is what you've built in the past enough to keep the relationship going into the future? On today's Oblyron Divination. Greetings everyone, I am Oblyron, Lord of the Underworld and consort to the most lovely Hecate. Thank you for joining me on today's Elemental Synastry Reading. It is a divination technique which was gifted to me by the goddess upon our sacred marriage, and it involves the tarot, the 5 elements, and astrology. Now this is a timeless collective reading, so take what resonates and discard what doesn't, and if you do happen to resonate with today's message, then feel free to let us all know by leaving a like, subscribe, and perhaps a comment letting us know exactly how you've resonated with today's message. So I start by drawing a tarot card to see how it's influencing the element. And the first element that we start off with is the element of spirit, which is represented by the bell. Okay, so what is influencing the element of spirit, love? Oh, okay. The inverted Ace of Swords wanted to pop up. Okay, so Ace of Swords. Yeah. So we're kind of feeling a bit stalled in our intellectual pursuits, but we're kind of feeling a bit stalled, a bit hindered, a bit like things aren't so clear when it comes to sort of forming a plan, especially towards the future. Maybe things don't seem so clear. Maybe we don't have a clear path. Perhaps, it could be any number of things. Perhaps we could just be overthinking things, overanalyzing things. But there is a lot of, let's say, sort of jumbled energy in spirit. We're sort of seeing the shadow aspects of the element of air coming out with that inverted Ace of Swords. So yeah, a lot of overthinking, a lot of worrying, a lot of concerns, and it's just kind of leading to this feeling of being a bit stuck. And let's see what the astrology die have to say to that. So I roll the astrology die to see what is the likely outcome or advice. And what we have is Saturn in Cancer in the 3rd house. All right. Saturn, Cancer, 3rd house. Okay, so I roll once for the house and I roll a second time for the decan. So we are in the 3rd decan of Cancer. All right. That's the Lord of Blended Pleasure. Okay. This is more of a familial issue. This is more of not being able to communicate with the people who are close to us, not being able to gain any traction or ground or any type of agreement. And yeah, pretty much what's happening is we're starting to feel a bit alone and because of that. Whatever this family member is doing, we feel like we just can't get our point across. We feel like we just can't communicate it. We're stuck at this sort of impasse with them, and yeah, and so with Saturn influencing that particular situation, it is suggesting that not only do we need to probably put up some barriers, because Saturn is the planet of boundaries and barriers, but also perhaps that we need to maybe even take a different approach. Because whatever we're doing right now is not working. Everything that we've had, all these strategies to communicate or to try and see things on equal footing or an equal ground, it's just not working. And there's a lot of stagnation. So yeah, that seems to be the overall theme of spirit today. Okay, let's move on to the next element to see what's influencing that. Maybe we could get a little bit more clarification on how to approach this situation. All right, so the next element is the element of fire, and it's represented by the wand. It represents our drives, ambitions, and desires. And the wand is a very directed and focused energy, much like our drives, ambitions, and desires. Inverted Queen of Swords. Wow. Okay. Man, this is an interesting this is an interesting reading. Okay. So yeah. So this is kind of leading to a cascading effect in our own selves too, in our own drives, ambitions, and desires. This is cascaded into our element of fire, and it's causing us to not always show up and be our best. You know, that inverted Queen of Swords is when we start to get into those sort of petty mind games, you know, get into the whole shit testing other people and all that kind of stuff. That's that inverted Queen of Swords. So when it comes to that element of fire, with the inverted Queen of Swords influencing it, you know, we may feel tempted, if we haven't already done it, to be a little bit unscrupulous in how we're handling this situation within ourselves. And I think the important thing to remember, again, especially with Saturn influencing that particular thing in spirit, is that, again, we need to put up those boundaries and realize that this person is influencing us to not be in alignment with our highest and best. And this is a reminder from spirit to, again, set up those boundaries. Don't let that person influence you to the point to where you're not showing up and being your best anymore. It's not our job to heal the world. It's not our job to make everyone see our perspective or to make people understand us. It's not our job. It's only our job to just live our life and to understand ourselves the best that we can. So when we allow other people to influence us, well, now our path, even if we feel justified in what we're doing, if let's say someone wronged you and you say, well, they wronged me, this, and this, and all of that. Well, there's only so long that you can engage in that before you start to take up those qualities of the people who unfairly treated us. And so, again, this is the reminder to say, look, put up those boundaries. Don't let those energies infiltrate your own spirit. Don't let don't carry another person's emotional baggage, pretty much. Again, set up those barriers and don't be influenced by it. All right, let's see what the astrology die have to say to that. So we have the North Node in Aries in the 4th house. Okay, so some more Cancerian energy. All right, let's re-roll for the decan. All right, so we're in that middle decan of Aries. That's that 3 of Wands energy. So, okay. Yeah. So, where we are supposed to ultimately go with this is moving on to a greater sense of cooperation. That 3 of Wands energy. It's sort of like that, starting a business, starting an endeavor, that kind of thing. Well, this particular endeavor with that 3 of Wands is really about, regardless of whether this person influencing you is a major factor or not, regardless of whatever that is, the whole end result from this is being able again, to reestablish our boundaries and to reestablish new levels of communication within us. We're learning a lot of things about ourselves from this particular situation. We're learning how to be better people from this. That's essentially what this is, what's happening. And also with all that Cancerian energy, it will go and help to reestablish a more harmonious balance within the household as well, within the home life, within the family life. So, yeah, it's really about claiming, or I should say reclaiming our own individual sovereignty, not allowing ourselves to be influenced so much by external factors, and to get to the point to where, we could really step into the person that we need to be. That's what that North Node means. Those tests in which life gives us right now to see if we rise to the challenge of learning the lessons that we need to learn. So it's very important to take this whole situation as a lesson to be learned, as a lesson to, again, reestablish our individual sovereignty, to be able to put up those boundaries too, and to really step back into our highest and best for ourselves, not to get involved in the petty games, not to want to take those shortcuts and be a little bit underhanded, none of that kind of stuff. We just want to be true to ourselves, be the authentic version of ourselves, and be able to move on from this situation, this family member who's been vexing us, or whatever's been happening. Okay, let's move on to the next element. That is the element of air, represented by the sword. It represents our intellectual pursuits, our communicative abilities, learning new skills. All right, so what is influencing air, love? Okay. Man, I think this whole reading is going to be a bunch of inverted cards. Wow. All right, so we got the inverted star. So, yeah, not only has this situation caused us to step out of, let's say, our highest and best alignment, but also from our communicative efforts, from our ability to understand what's happening, we're also feeling a bit, we also feel like we can't reach out for help. We're feeling like there's no one to talk to. We're probably feeling very, very isolated right now. And yeah, it's really about, I mean, it goes to reiterate the entire message, however this person is influencing us, we still have the choice to allow them to influence us, or we have the choice to again establish our own boundaries. And it seems as though we even got the inverted star with that, with our communicative efforts. So this is a feeling of also, just not being able to have someone to reach out to, or have someone to be able to even talk about these types of things. And so, let's see. Yeah, so even in the element of air, we may feel a bit muddled. We may feel like we don't have a direction, or we may feel a little bit confused of where to go for this particular scenario. Let's see what the astrology die have to say to that. Okay, so we have Jupiter in Cancer in the 4th house. Wow, a lot of Cancerian energy popping up right now. But, all right, let's re-roll for the decan. So we're in the first decan of Cancer for that. Okay, we got this whole cluster right here. Let's see. Okay. All right, that kind of works. So, one thing that we do have going for us right here is that Jupiter, which is exalted in Cancer, and And then we also have this Cancerian energy, this first decan of Cancer energy in the 4th house, which is Cancer. So, and then we also have in the element of fire, we have that element in the 4th house as well. So a lot of Cancerian energy is coming up. A lot of energy regarding the home life is coming up too, and that seems to be exposing itself. Like the home life may be a little bit chaotic. The home life, and that could also be why it's hard to set up boundaries, is because you probably live with this person. You can't just get rid of them. This could be a significant other. This could be a relative, whoever it is. But there's a lot of tension in the home and in the home life, and this is actually this is more of a situation of advice rather than the likely outcome. The advice is, if you take that first decan of Cancer, it's the Lord of Love. So the advice is to just still tap into that energy of being loving, regardless of whatever the situation is. If we could just keep our hearts from being, let's say, poisoned or tainted by someone else's negativity, if we could still go on with that pure heart, that'll help to give us the leverage and the position to be able to see things from a greater perspective. And that Jupiter influencing it, like I said, it's exalted in Cancer. And so that is really our path to expansion. That's really our path to being able to overcome this situation, is being able to see things from a higher perspective, see things from a different vantage point, and to be able to expand beyond those horizons. So we really need to take a look at how our home life is and really ask ourselves, okay, well, how can we make that better? The inverted star is also about not accepting help. And what's interesting too is we also have this 3rd decan of Cancer right here, which, as I said earlier, was Lord of Blended Pleasure. And that too is also about not being able to accept help. So there's a lot of stubbornness which is happening right now within us. And now is probably a good time to reach out. Even though this person is antagonizing us, well, guess what? There's a lot more people in the world, and perhaps we need a different counsel. Perhaps we need to have different people in our lives. And so, yeah, we can't just focus on one person being the definition or the defining factor of how we view our lives. It really takes a village, and unfortunately, in the modern life, we have a tendency to really isolate. And so the people who are in our lives, well, they have a tendency to be these highly influential and huge players in our lives just because our social circle has shrunk. But if we had a wider social circle, we expand beyond what we consider our home base, then we can expand that social circle, we can get different perspectives, and we can better define who we are because we have a wider perspective of options, I guess you could say. All right, let's move on to the next element, and that is the element of Earth, which is represented by the Pentacle. Earth represents our spiritual wealth, our material wealth, the ground we walk on, all those things, the tried and true plan and path with which to walk. All right, so let's influencing the element of Earth love. Okay. All right, so we have the 6 of Cups. All right. Yeah, this is definitely family. Oh my goodness. So the 6 of Cups, that's the nostalgia card. That's the card of the past, the happy memories of the past. Those types of things. And pretty much what we're what we're experiencing on the element of earth is, in the past, there was this feeling of abundance. There was this solid ground, this feeling of nostalgia, feeling of acceptance, all these types of things. And that foundation is still there even to this day. Even though the whole situation may be a little bit messed up right now, that there's still that solid foundation. So again, despite everything that's happening, it's good to take, like I said, it's good to take a step back from this particular situation to remember the good times, because that foundation is still there. That those memories are still there. Those emotions are still there. And that can also be a deciding factor to help expand beyond what's happening in the element of fire and the element of air as well. Okay, let's see what the astrology die have to say to that. So we have Mercury in Taurus in the 10th house. Okay. And let's re-roll for the decking. 8. Okay, so we're in that middle decan of Taurus. And yeah. So it's interesting. We have the 6 of Cups in the tarot card, but we have the 6 of Pentacles in the astrology die. So lots of 6s popping up here. Yeah, that 6 of Pentacles, Lord of material success. It's basically, yeah. It's pretty much telling us that, yeah, we already have this strong foundation. We've already worked and built a lot of things in the past. And it's really remembering how far we've come from the past, how much we've built, and how much success or material success we've had in that time that we've been building. That's what needs to be remembered, and that's what needs to be communicated as well. That's what needs to be recognized, because it's so easy. It's so easy to take our own success for granted, and then we start to find other things to be upset at. So this seems to be some type of situation where, on the material level, we are rather successful. We probably got the house, got the car, got the marriage, the 2.5 kids, all that kind of stuff. And after achieving that success, now all these other things come up. Now there are all these communicative problems. There are all these hard feelings, a lot of things that are not being said. And really, you have to ask yourself, is it all worth it? Is it worth being upset in these elements? And is it worth it to just forget all this, forget everything that's been built up to stay in this energy? I'm not here to say, you got to decide one thing or another, but those are the questions that needs to be asked. Is it worth it? We've come so far, we've built so much, and after that, everything is starting to fall apart. That's a very difficult situation. I was in that situation once, and when you're in that situation, you're always hoping to get out of it. You're always hoping that there's that light at the end of the tunnel, that things will go back to the way that they were. And for some people, sometimes they do, and for other people, sometimes they don't. There's so many factors to determine that. And if this is a really bad situation, it's probably gonna take some counseling. It's probably gonna take some therapy. It'll be a lot harder to do it on your own. So, yeah, again, ask yourself those questions. Is it worth it to keep on holding on to that anger, or to that, to that, the sludge of the shadow aspects of let's say a relationship with another person. All right, let's move on to the last element, the element of water, which is represented by the cup. Water represents our intuition, our emotions. Water can also represent our psychic abilities. And let's see what is influencing water. Okay. All right, love. What is influencing water? Wow, okay. Inverted Four of Wands. Okay. Yeah. So, yeah, that inverted Four of Wands, it could actually suggest that on an emotional level, we already feel divorced from the situation. We already feel detached from the situation. Yeah, so wish I had some better news, but that seems to be what's happening emotionally. So, yeah, normally in the upright position, that Four of Wands is usually means some type of marriage or let's say a celebration, something to that effect. But, in the inverted position, it could be, like I said, it could feel like we already feel divorced. We already feel detached. We already feel like nothing is going to come of this. And, once we kind of feel that on an emotional level, it's very difficult to get those original feelings back. It's very difficult to just do a 180 because our emotions don't quite move with the same logic and precision that, let's say, our minds do. We can understand intellectually all the things that we need to understand, but how do we feel it on an emotional level? Everything could look good on paper, but still, emotionally, something just doesn't add up. And when it comes to things like that, the most important thing to really learn is, well, it's just really to focus on our own emotions. Why do we react that way? Why do we feel this way? A lot of times when things degrade between two people, the emotions run high, the anger runs high, the social constructs degrade. A lot of times there's just so much you just can't make a U-turn from that. And so again, it's very important to just go within oneself. The other person does not matter. The only thing that matters is our reactions to the situation. And this is a time to really go in and search those emotions. Say, okay, well, again, so much was built. There's a lot of success right here in the element of Pentacle. But everything else kind of seems to be in shambles a little bit, unfortunately. But you know what? That's what the tarot does. We're here to learn those aspects about ourselves, which maybe we don't always want to hear. I know sometimes it's really easy to use tarot to kind of always use it as like an external validation or an external justification, but really the most powerful aspects of tarot happens when we take the symbolism of the cards in astrology and we turn that inwards. The outside world, it doesn't matter. The only thing that matters are our choices and how we choose to view the outside world. So this is a time of reflection. This is a time of really searching those emotions and being able to sort through it. All right, what do the astrology die have to say to that? So we've got Neptune and Aquarius in the 5th house. All right, let me take these out of the way. All right, Neptune, Aquarius, 5th house. And let's re-roll for the decan. Okay, so we're in that middle decan of Aquarius. All right. Here, let me kind of move that so I can still see the Queen of Swords. She wants to be seen. All right. Yeah, okay. All right. Yeah, it's a good thing that Neptune is there, because Neptune is saying, okay, it's time to take a step back. It's time to kind of view things from a detached perspective, which is what the other elements are saying too. Neptune is the hangman in the tarot. And so, what we do is we need to take a step back to detach ourselves from the situation, because the emotions are high right now. The emotions are really high. We feel so unjustly treated, and all these things are happening. It's this whole maelstrom of chaos and emotional malaise, I guess. So yeah, take a step back and really process things, really feel things, and really let it come through, really address it all. That middle decan of Aquarius, that is the Lord of Earned Success. That is that 6 of Swords energy. And so it's really about putting in the work. Putting in the work to be able to sail to better times, so to speak. And what this is telling us is really to start putting in that work. This is also in the 5th house, or it's in the 5th house, which is ruled by Leo. And, that has to deal with us being at our highest and best, with us shining, with us being outgoing and extroverted, and really stepping into our own in terms of energy. And so it goes back to reiterate what I was saying about how whatever situation you're in, it doesn't really matter what the other person is doing or saying. The only thing that really matters is our reaction in what we are doing and what we are saying. So that's going back to Leo. Again, it reiterates it's our choice. It is our ability, how we choose to view things. Are we going to choose to salvage the situation, to try and make the best of it, to try and work things out, or are we going to leave, to ignore? Again, there's no right or wrong answer. It's just life. It's just choices that we need to make. Is it worth it to still stay in a situation? Is it worth it to still keep in contact with someone? Is it worth it to continue this relationship? All kinds of things like that. And when we make those decisions, especially regarding, let's say, important people in our lives, it should be taken with some great care and great consideration. It shouldn't be something which is so hastily done that, we do things on a whim and then end up regretting things the rest of our lives. There should be a lot of care and consideration taken into this. Yeah, it's so funny because it's like we have all these inverted cards on one side of the reading, and then we have the Pentacles on the other side of the reading. It's like the Pentacle is in opposition to every single one of these cards. It actually is. It's in opposition to the element of fire. Speaking of, let's go around and look for the aspects. So yeah, we have that opposition between earth and fire. And yeah, it's the paradox. It's like, because in the past we've had a lot of success. We got out and we achieved everything that we wanted to get. and now our drives and ambitions to this day, it's kind of degraded into these petty mind games. We've it's just caused a lot of chaos and suffering, even in the home life too. So it would make sense that those are in opposition. Sometimes oppositions work to amplify the opposites attract phenomenon. It works to amplify the better qualities within the two signs, and sometimes it works to amplify sort of the bad qualities. I would say with this, they're more of a representation of a sort of split path. One path was awesome, and this is a path that you get today. And there's sort of this paradox, and it's that sort of cognitive dissonance between what we knew was so good in the past with compared to what we have now, which is petty mind games and basically breaking each other down. Yeah, it makes sense that those are in opposition. All right, let's see, what else do we have? So we have a sextile formed between cups and between fire. And yeah, that would also make a lot of sense too. So those two energies are kind of amplifying themselves. Sometimes, we have let's say in a sextile, it means like a positive aspect, but in this particular aspect, because it's an elemental synastry reading, both the elements of fire and water are kind of they're in a little bit of trouble, and the sextile formed between those two is kind of amplifying the trouble. It's sort of this wind tunnel kind of saying, see, you feel that because this is how things are. And things are like this because you feel that. And so it's this cycle, it's this circle which just keeps on spiraling. And in that case, that sextile is amplifying that spiral. And yeah, okay. Let's see, what else do we have? We also have a conjunction between spirit and air. So, and that also makes sense too, because because Ace of Swords, that's air. The Star, that's Aquarius, that's air. And we have the Swords, that's air too. So yeah, that conjunction it's also kind of like the sextile. It feeds the whole thing. We don't reach out for help because we feel that we can't, and also it's like, well, even what is the point, because things are falling apart. So that's what it's suggesting. Yeah, that conjunction. So these are also influenced by Cancer too in that conjunction. So again, a lot of that home life is really in jeopardy. And that conjunction is also starting to amplify that a little bit too. So there's a lot happening here. There's a lot which is unfortunately going against us. And, from this perspective, like I said, it's like the Pentacles is the only really positive aspect about this reading. Everything else, it's kind of like, it's a sort of negative. We got mind games, we got pettiness, we have feelings of disillusionment. We have all kinds of stuff happening, and it's all bunched up. But with every reading, I do try and look for the silver lining, and that silver lining in this reading is obviously the Pentacles. I would say that the silver lining can also be all these inverted cards too. Because if you're still holding out to work things out, to make things happen, then all of this serves as a warning of what's happening, or a reflection of what's happening right now, to also serve as a warning to the future. Because all of this is saying, look, this situation is not good, and it's not going to get any better unless we take efforts right now to make the situation better. And maybe sometimes the situation can't even get better. Maybe this is time to just break it off or call it off, or stop, go no contact, whatever it is. So the question is really, is what was built worth trying to reconcile all of this? That's really the message of the reading. And sometimes it's always nice to do readings where everything is positive and everything works out. For this particular reading, obviously I'm not going to tell anyone what to do one way or another. These readings are to confirm what we already intuitively understand, not necessarily to be taken as, let's say, literal advice. And so, it's really asking those questions. Is what was built worth going into the future with what is there now? So, yeah, I think I'm going to take it into the extended reading from here. I'll be posting that on my Discord. The link is in the description if you're interested. I'll be using some oracle decks to get some further clarification on this quagmire of this quagmire of a reading. But hey, no reading is all good or all bad. They're all lessons to teach us something. So again, head on over to the Discord if you're interested in that. I also post some additional content on my Discord, as well as have discussion forums if you want to carry on the conversation. I'm looking to build a community of people who like to talk about this type of stuff. So yeah, hop on over if you're interested. Again, thanks for joining today, for watching, and may Hecate illuminate your path and guide you at the crossroads.